If you've been on social media over the past 2 weeks, you've probably noticed there has been a lot of discourse involving the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and the Pokemon trading card game. I can't say that it comes as a complete shock, as Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon both have been part of the big three trading card games and rivals for going on over 2 decades now. But a lot of it revolved around the Pokemon TCG World Championship that took place a little over a week ago in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii. You may have seen the post by YouTuber Squiddy comparing the crowd size of YCS Sacramento to the Pokemon World Championship itself. And while it was incredibly deceptive, I will say that this is exactly the reason why I blasted Konami for making the decision of having the upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship in Seattle be a closed event and not open to the public. A giant weekend full of players from all over the world celebrating the game that they love in person could have been what we got in the community, but instead, Konami went ahead and ruined that. Anyways, I digress because I'm getting off topic. One of the biggest stories, without a doubt, coming out of the Pokemon World Championship wasn't about how essentially a $60 stun deck won the entire thing, but instead was a huge controversy that actually decided the entire event and championship itself. And I'll just say it right now for those who have no idea what I'm talking about. All things considered, I think this is one of the dumbest and craziest things I have ever heard come out of a trading card game tournament, especially of this size and magnitude. So let me first quickly disclose, and this should really come as no shock for all those who routinely watch me, but despite all my knowledge of Yu-Gi-Oh! Going back over 25 years, I am in no way an expert on the Pokemon trading card game, so you'll have to excuse any small mistakes that I might make on pronunciations or on card/game mechanics. Moving along, to set the stage, the Pokemon TCG World Championship was in its top 8 or quarterfinals of the Masters Division, which featured a match between competitors Ian Robb and Fernando Cifuentes. Both players came in with an impressive 10-2 win-loss record, and a win here would mean not only moving to the top 4, but also an additional $5,000 in the way of prize money. As to the match itself, which the commentators expected to be a fairly slow-paced back and forth drag-out brawl, it was everything but, and I'll tell no lies here. I've watched the entire match, which shockingly was uploaded to Pokemon's main channel of over 6 million subscribers, and considering my lack of the game knowledge, I definitely wasn't able to largely comprehend the ins and outs of the players' moves, but even I can recognize a grade A ass whooping when I see it. For those who don't know, just like in high-level Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments, in the top 8 and beyond of the Pokemon TCG, time is extended.
Of course, you have plenty of time here, 75 minutes in a top 8, so make sure to follow along as best as possible with all of your resources that you have. Get a good feel for what those prize cards are, and there's no surprise here.
For their game specifically, they got 75 minutes to complete their round. This match was over in less than 20. It was a completely one-sided, swift, and utterly dominant 2-0 annihilation. In fact, Game 2 ended in less than 4 minutes.
Ian Robb taking down this Iron Thorns EX in a dominant fashion here in our first top 8 match. I'm sure he's feeling good right now. Everything seemed to go his way, despite this Iron Thorns EX shutting down a lot of his deck there with that initialization ability.
Keep in mind, to my understanding, Fernando was playing a stun deck which the commentators themselves even said had the ability to neutralize many of the cards in Ian's deck. And to put this into better perspective, I've seen many Yu-Gi-Oh! Players basically comparing the deck to Inspector Border stun. The live stream of this match was being watched by tens of thousands of players and fans across the world. This type of dominant victory on stream should have been one of Ian's proudest moments, but instead, it turned into one of his most regrettable ones. As the camera panned to Ian to get his reaction to winning the match, he smirked and did a hand gesture to the crowd.
Watch Kyle, Ian Robb taking down this Iron Thorns.
Being completely honest here, I'm not exactly sure what this hand gesture actually meant, because I've heard everything from jerking off to rolling the dice, and my Pokemon TCG knowledge isn't high enough to know how important rolling the dice is to Pokemon matches. Neither explanation really makes much sense to me, especially given the context that it happened right after a massive beatdown, so I'll leave it up to your interpretation, and you guys can just feel free to leave whatever you thought it was in the comment section below. On the live stream, they had already announced Ian Robb as the winner of the tournament match, and even advanced him to the semifinals on their tournament chart when there was an announcement that Robb would be receiving a full match loss for what was being called an unsportsmanlike gesture, and they would be retroactively overturning the results of the last match completely. This is just my opinion, but to me, this was absolutely insane. I've gone to task at Konami for issuing Sam from Team Samurai a game loss going into a YCS finals match, effectively crippling his team's chance of winning just for using a swear word on stream out of frustration. However, this is far worse because not only was this a full match loss instead of a game loss, but they also made it retroactively. Some might say, Cap G, what does it matter if they overturn a top 8 match or moved him to the top 4 and gave him the match loss there? Either way, he wasn't going to be able to win the tournament. This is completely true. However, as I said earlier, the difference between a top 8 and top 4 finish at this specific tournament was $5,000. So if the Pokemon Company had at least just let the results of the quarterfinals stand and issued him the penalty in the next round, he would have gone home with an extra $5,000 in his pocket. To make matters worse, and this is the truly unbelievable part of this entire story, his opponent from the top 8 or quarterfinals, Fernando Cifuentes, who again had just been absolutely bodied into oblivion 2-0 in less than 20 minutes, ended up winning the entire Pokemon World Championship after being given a second life in the tournament for free. Yep, this was all types of lunacy. First off, let me just say that obviously I can't make an official call on what constitutes an unsportsmanlike gesture in Pokemon, but I don't even think that Ian Robb should have been issued a match loss to begin with. Whatever happened to just giving warnings to people? Why immediately go into the deep end and dole out the harshest penalty imaginable? Why not take into consideration time and place and realize that a player just moved to the semifinals of the most important tournament of the entire year and has a legitimate chance of winning the entire thing? If you're gonna give someone a break, I would think that this would be the time to do it. Furthermore, overturning a match that had already been fully completed makes zero sense to me. It'd have been one thing if Ian Robb had given his opponent the middle finger in between game 1 and game 2. That'd be enough in my opinion to just stop the match on the spot, throw the book at him, and give him a disqualification or a match loss or whatever. But this match had already concluded with no issue, and honestly, I don't even think his gesture was harsh enough to warrant anything more than a warning to begin with. It should go without saying, but this absolutely exploded on social media and was even covered by websites like Screen Rant, Sports Illustrated, and others. Regardless of what you think Ian Robb actually did with his hand gesture or what his intentions were, one thing cannot be argued or disputed, and that is that the match loss / disqualification completely changed the result of the 2024 TCG Pokemon World Championship. Honestly, there should have been no possible way for Fernando Cifuentes to win that tournament, and yet that's exactly what happened. And again, personally, I found it pretty shocking that Pokemon uploaded that top 8 match to their main channel of over 6,000 subscribers. If I was them, I would have completely tried to bury that thing, deleted all the history of it, and pretend that it didn't happen, because if you watch that match, you can see Fernando get destroyed and then miraculously end up winning the tournament regardless.
Tens of thousands of us viewers watched Fernando lose convincingly, and now he's the 2024 Masters Pokemon TCG World Champion.
Oh, we're flying. Oh my goodness, is it all there? He's got the energy switch.
He's got everything. Oh my gosh, Kyle. Ian Robb taking down this Iron Thorns EX in a dominant 2-0 victory here in our first top 8 match at the World Championship.
While I don't think that players should be allowed to disrespect their opponents, I do think that judges in these TCGs, whether it be Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, really need to ease up, because this literally changed the outcome of the biggest Pokemon tournament and may have robbed, no pun intended, actually yes pun intended, Ian Robb of $50,000 rather than the $15,000 that he ended up winning. To Rob's credit, he didn't whine or complain about the penalty, at least not publicly, instead just posting a smiley face on Twitter, which I guess is also up for interpretation. In the end, I think that this is one of the wildest events that I've ever seen or heard of in any competitive TCG, and I'm personally not a fan of it. I'm someone who really enjoys watching TCG gameplay, and I don't like these high-end matches, whether it be a YCS finals or, the quarterfinals of a world championship, being decided by these trivial and probably just completely unnecessary game penalties. Just let the players play, let the cards decide the outcomes, and let it be decided by skill. Anyways, that is the end, and whatever you guys thought of this entire crazy situation, you leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, as always.